I seriously want to know, are there any videos of President Biden receiving warm welcomes like this when he show up to major events? What is going on, folks? Appreciate you guys all being here. Hope you guys are all doing well. I'm Ty Smith. Welcome to my channel, Modern Renaissance Man. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to view this. Make sure you follow me on all the platforms you see listed up here and down here, and hitting this right here will continuously recommend my videos to you, and it pushes out in the YouTube algorithm, all right? Appreciate it. Y'all, this was awesome, and I don't want to take too much away from this video because I really do want you guys to see this and hear this analysis, but there's a lot of things that's going on right now. As we start to edge into this summer, folks are really kind of on the edge about who President Trump is going to have as his pick to be VP, but also all the different things that's going on with the campuses, his trials and everything. Folks are just really on the edge about everything. But one thing that is for sure is that when Trump shows up to certain places, he seems to get a really, 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 really warm welcome. Check this out.
Yes, a hero's welcome for the former president at the Formula One Miami Grand Prix. Just a few hours ago, Trump waved to the crowd and stopped by the McLaren garage one day after Trump sized up the competition for his running mate in November. Now, some of the rumored VP contenders were all on one stage at the RNC Spring Retreat in Palm Beach, where the Trump campaign and RNC announced a massive $76 million fundraising haul for the last month. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera breaks down the potential running mates.
The RNC Spring Donor Retreat this weekend allowed former President Trump to screen some of his potential running mates, but some of the rumored top candidates aren't sharing too many details. Listen here.
So they're going to speculate on the VP thing. Here's the good news, and I saw it this weekend. The amount of talent that we have in the Republican Party is extraordinary. He's going to have an extraordinary group of talented people that can serve this country in multiple roles.
There's a lot of names that are in the mix. I'm honored to have my names as one of them in the mix right now, but it is a true testament to the strength of the Republican Party.
Over 400 people coming to support the president and the Republican National Committee. It demonstrates the strength and the resolve. You couple that with poll numbers, and then, of course, the reality that Joe Biden, the master of disaster himself, is the very worst president our country has seen. That is why people are rallying around President Trump. He's going to be the 47th president of the United States.
Meantime, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem's prospects may be in trouble. She's doing damage control again this morning for shooting and killing her 14-month-old dog 20 years ago. The story is laid out in her upcoming book. After killing her dog, she says she also killed their goat.
I want the truth to be out there and to understand that these animals were attacking my children, that we live on a farm and a ranch, and that tough decisions are made many times.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott says he too hasn't spoken to Trump about the VP pick.
I certainly expect to have a decision from President Trump in the next 60 days or so, but he did not bring it up. I certainly didn't bring it up.
Remember, Trump didn't reveal then Indiana Governor Mike Pence as his running mate until mid-July 2016. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
Oh, the table is so fired up to talk about this one. One thing we are all in agreement of, I believe, is that nobody wants South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to be the VP pick. I think that there is indeed no going back. We could spend the entire hour talking on that, as we have backstage. But I want to talk about the others that are on this list, Tammy. Let's bring up the full screen there. Of course, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, Representative Lee Stefanik of New York, Byron Donalds of Florida, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, and still on that list, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Tammy, which one of those excites you the most and why?
Well, you know, there just needs to be a big red X on the dog killer. It just needs to be. I mean, what's great about campaigns is that you learn about people and that it's a constant scrutiny. They say things that are important, whether they're good or bad. You see how people handle stress, what their character is or lack thereof. So I think that this, again, is what's very important in this regard. But at the same time, we look at those individuals. What we've heard, of course, is that the talent bench is deep. That is true. The benefit for President Trump this time around is he knows what he's getting into. Before, he did not. Neither did the rest of us. He presumed, like when you're running a business, that everybody's on the same page and everyone wants success. Not in Washington. So now he knows. And I think we're looking at a dynamic where he expected things from Pence that he did not get. He needs a teammate. This is not a frivolous decision. I'm sure he knows that. And I think he also knows the seriousness of what it means. He is thinking ahead usually for the country. I think I would accept, because I've learned to not second guess President Trump, whoever he wants, because he understands what's at stake. All of these individuals with, again, -1, would be fabulous. Also, Sarah Sanders comes to mind. I mentioned Mike Pompeo on Fox and Friends this morning. Some people got upset. But the reality is all hands on deck for this, because we've got a big job, and he's got one term to do it, which means 2.5 or 3 years again, because they'll fight him. But the person who's in that spot has got to be able to be a ringer for 28 and 32.
I think that's important. Guy, I want to go to you because there's a lot of discussion when we talk about VP about checking a box. The left needs to check a box. They are married to that box of the things they need to check on it, the DEI list, if you will. On the Republican side, not so much, but is there still some sense of having to pick somebody that's got something, some kind of an X factor beyond just being qualified? And if so, which one of those potentials do you see as being the best fit?
Well, I think the conventional wisdom has been for a while that it's probably going to be a woman or maybe a person of color. I think that game was played by the current president with his running mate, and that has gone very poorly, I would argue, for the country and for him. She has not been an asset, I think, to put it kindly, to that administration. I'm not sure how much stake to put in any of these lists, right? Like, oh, the short list is getting shorter. Here's the 4 names. Here's the 5 names. Here's someone who's rising. I think a lot of this might be a head fake. There's a very good chance that Trump has known all along who it's going to be, or maybe he is really making this decision on the fly. He's got still several months to make it. I'm not sure why people would be upset, Tammy, with Mike Pompeo and his name being in there. I think it makes actually a lot of sense. Yes, he's not checking either of the identity boxes that you're talking about, but look at his resume.
Well, that's the problem for some, is the deep history within the government, which implies that he was able to survive that environment. I think, and wars, but I like him. I think he would fit somewhere very nicely.
Well, he was Trump's Secretary of State. They had a very successful foreign policy. He was a CIA director. He was in Congress. He served in the military. Yeah. And I think more importantly than necessarily the resume is the steadiness. I think whoever Trump picks, whether it's, I'm just throwing Pompeo out there because you mentioned him.
Sure.
I think the most important factor for a lot of voters is reassurance. A lot of people are not reassured by Donald Trump. There's people who love him. They're going to vote for him no matter what. There's a universe of people that Trump needs to vote for him that need some extra reassurance, someone who is steady as she goes, someone who is low drama. And I think that type of person is important.
Which, of course, was the impetus for why the genius behind picking Mike Pence. 8 years ago now, is it?
Right.
Yeah, 8 years ago. And, you know, but the beauty of the Trump agenda, the America First Trump agenda, is that the identity stuff kind of goes out the window when everybody is sort of lined up behind it's a pretty simple, clear vision. And I think that if you took out some of the enormously unfair media depictions of Donald Trump and some of the bombast that I guess turns some Republicans off. If you take all that out, these are 70, 80% issues for Americans,
right.
Like the idea of having a border or having American energy independence. And when you have everybody going in the same direction, like you were talking about, Tammy, with that agenda, I mean, obviously, I do think that it helps to pick somebody. I mean, I think like a Doug Burgum would be a brilliant choice. Somebody who is a sort of a calming influence. That probably is going to help. But the agenda is what matters.
Well, and Trump is such a star that he needs to remain the star. But there was actually an article summing up kind of what we've all been talking about in The Atlantic about Trump's VP search and talking about how it's different this time. His 2024 considerations are less about logic or persuasion and more about personality. It goes on to talk about how he'll want someone who looks good on television, but not someone who might outshine him, as we just talked about, someone who isn't polarizing to the mega base, but who demonstrates range. He'll choose a candidate with experience, or at least with some record of being a winner. He's probably looking for a politician to balance out the ticket. But I want to ask you about this, Tammy, because I think it's important. A lot of voters out there don't like that they have to pick between Trump and Biden. And one of the complaints that comes up more on the Biden side is that they're both older. If you throw somebody in there, maybe like a Senator Marco Rubio or Ron DeSantis, you got someone that's a little younger. Sure. Does that maybe help with some of the folks that say we need some young blood in there?
I think that so many big things are at stake, like over 80% of people worried about the economy, that we are now at such an existential point. There are going to be less considerations about who that second person is. And frankly, there is no one in the GOP who would outshine Trump. That sounds like The Atlantic, right? Trying to put on him some narcissism about he's worried about being outshone. By whom? No, I mean, come on.
Right.
So Trump is the man. He has the flexibility now, because it's not now just about the presence of someone who can help him get things done, because it's going to be the swamp against them. DeSantis, of course, I like that idea because he's the talent. He's clearly has a future, but he needs the experience to help him get through that. Even Nikki Haley. I'm sorry, these are talented people, maybe not as vice president, certainly, but
and by the way,
in an important role.
The age thing actually does matter, because generationally that's interesting. But you have two leading contenders who are 77 and 81. People are going to think more frequently about a contingency plan.
Yeah.
And I think that is a real detriment
Sure.
to Joe Biden, knowing who's on deck
Yes.
potentially. And that's something that I think enhances the importance of this decision.
Yes, great
Ultimately,
point.
the most important thing is that Trump picks somebody who can carry on the America First Trump agenda. But also, you are picking somebody potentially for 12 years, not 4 and not 8.
Yeah.
And whoever that is. And it's got to be somebody who's tough, who can go into Washington and not get bullied around by
Right.
the
Need
swamp.
to be able to call someone up from AAA should they need to be called in. Oh, it was great to see Trump at the Grand Prix, though, I got to say.
You see what I mean? Now, I know that they ended it with them talking about the VP and all that. That can be for another video. But my point in saying that is that I am not saying this to be like condescending or trying to throw shots. But I really want to know if there are videos out there that exist that displays when Joe Biden shows up, that amount of patriotism is shown when he shows up. For example, now, I get you if you say, Ty, when they showed up, they started chanting Trump, 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 Trump. They weren't doing that. They were chanting USA, which to me is showing some patriotism. They feel like that when Trump comes around because they know he's America first, right? When President Biden shows up, I'm not saying they don't exist. I just haven't seen anything. I have not seen any videos when President Joe Biden shows up and people start going USA, USA. Now, if some of y'all, you stupid, there are. Now, I said I don't know if there are. If they are some, you guys can be more than happy to leave the link in the comment section if you would. Leave it in the link. What would y'all think would happen if Joe Biden showed up? If President Joe Biden showed up to, say, UFC fights, any MMA, do you think he would get the same warm welcome and all that President Trump gets? I don't even think he would know where he even is. I'm not saying that to throw shots. I'm being realistic. Just like when he was at the black church, you know how President Joe Biden grew up in the black church? And then when you saw him at the black church, he was, he knew what was going on. So no, I'm just saying, at this point in time, guys, seems like a lot of folks are very patriotic when it comes to this country. And if there is a candidate that shows his patriotism and seems to want to put America first, it seems to be like this leaning towards President Trump. Am I wrong? Prove it. Leave it in the comment section. I'm willing to hear from both sides. It does not matter. It does not matter whether you're for the Trump or whether you're from Joe Biden. It does not matter. I want to hear why. And again, answer me this question. Are there videos, and can you show me, leaving the link, are there videos of President Biden showing up to major events where people are just going mad crazy, chanting USA, and maybe they start singing the Star Spangled Banner, any of that? Show it, all right? Don't forget to hit this before y'all get out and check those cell phones. If you go into your cell phone, look into the contact list of your cell phone and share my channel with somebody. Just leave them a message and tell them to check the channel out, all right? We just hit, I think, 418, I think, or something like that. And that's all because of you guys. Appreciate y'all spreading the love and spreading this message out there, all right? Don't forget, if you do have any of social medias like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, which I don't know how long that's going to be around, but still, DM somebody and tell them to subscribe to the channel, all right? Appreciate it. I am Ty Smith, Model Renaissance Man, and I hope and pray every last one of you have food, shelter, and clothing, and most of all, I pray every last one of you guys are in great health mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. God bless you all through Jesus.